During episode Heresy, we went back to the Dreadnought. And through our journey, we learned that the Taken had a new leader. Sure, Oryx was back in some form, his previous self, but even he himself had no clue what was going on, who was controlling the Taken.
That ogre's undergoing the offering. The Hive do not possess this power. Without Oryx or the Witness, how? I fear another's hand may carve these new Taken into being. This place, a place of offering, where the Taken submit their weakness to gain strength. There is something else here, calling, rabid with grief. No, sever the bindings! Unshake this beast now, Guardian! The Dreadnought, the Taken, they are entwined, but their goals do not seem aligned. Perhaps the presence we felt here in the deep drives them. Perhaps there is more to uncover. Good. You've disrupted the ritual, but something else has stepped into the gap.
This is not my taking. Knife of my slaying. To arms.
You have no authority here.
Something was leading this new faction of Taken who were called the Dire Taken, trying to take other entities like a Hive Ogre and other enemies seen throughout our gameplay. Strange tentacles spread through once familiar halls and realms. The interesting thing is, the Taken were begging to be remade after the death of Oryx. They had no true leader. I mean, some would rise up temporarily and try to control them, some of the sisters, but nothing was really there to fill that void, that empty hangar of control where their minds resonate. So when it comes down to it, the Taken themselves were looking for a new leader. From what we can gather, the Lord of Every Nothing, the Will Without Wills, was brought into existence because the Taken wanted that leader. From the lore, it seems to be something new, either something new entirely springing up through existence, like a new being, or maybe an existing being changed into something new. It's told like it's a god born out of the void. Currently, it can only whisper, it's very weak, but it's growing in power day by day and is waiting for the doorway to open. A silent song, a whispered song, a quiet song in the broken sea, spoken without speaking, by the will without. My blade reshaped speaks for me. In inhabited dimensions, on the rich fields between the stars. A sweep of its arms and atoms scatter. Particles spin entangled. I spin with them. Worshippers give praise. Idolaters perform rite. Give glory to homage to the growing God. Should the edge of my knife go blunt, should the arms of my petitioners lower, should the congregation never sing again, the will lives, the will feasts, the will spins on. Pour food in the sea, still I eat. Quiet voice in the dark, still I am heard. You who want power, you who want deity, take shelter in me. As cyclone grows from seed, as currents feed the whirlpool, as planetesimals collect dust, so grows the will without will. Till I stand without caveat, speaking in my own voice, walking the fields of life. Guide, will, king, lord of every nothing. As hand in glove, sing orison. My voice is small. Strengthen my voice, observe the rites. Praise the accretion disk, assert my will. Open the doorway. Characters like Eris, Sloane, and even the resurrected Taken King himself felt this presence in the deep. Something taking these enemies. It wasn't Oryx, clearly, and it wasn't the Winnower either, which was frightening and really cool to hear at the time. Turns out it was something else.
We are not alone in the deep. Something I cannot see stands between the Winnower and the Taken. Carve these offerings free from their weakness, King, before something else does. I know the wills of every knife in this realm. I hear them scream as the strong metastasize the weak. And I feel a strength I do not know, carving paths that should belong to the Winnower, but don't.
So while the lore points to the Lord of Every Nothing being something new, created in the Ascendant Plane out of desire and meaning, does it have any connection to the Nine? I don't have the answers, but let's speculate for fun. It definitely could, given our new saga. First up, we have the whole tentacle connection. They were on the Dreadnought. 3 had tentacles on Kepler in the Edge of Fate. In Edge of Fate, we have the Epochs and Orbits lorebook, which speaks about each member of the Nine, their thoughts, and their beliefs. If any of this is connected to the Nine, there could be 2 possible members according to some community posts and also this new lorebook. The first is Saturn. Saturn, or 6, is a member of the Nine that was closest to the Dreadnought in the gravity wells of the planet Saturn. Makes sense that its influence could somehow exist within. The weird part is, the Nine can't exist in this realm, so if these tentacles are the same as 3's, for example, where did they come from and how? Unless, say, 6 was a part of these events influencing the Taken, but the tentacles we see on the Dreadnought were actually 3's. Maybe Maya killed 3 before the events of Heresy 2. We know it was before the Edge of Fate, so maybe it was further back, which is possible. Bungie said Renegades and 3's death will have an impact on Earth and the future of the story, so you never know. Parts of the lore cards from the Song of Descent lorebook from Heresy, which talks about the Lord of Every Nothing, have some letters in caps. As we know, 6, or Saturn, the member of the Nine, speaks in all caps with no punctuation. But in some of those same lore cards, there's also descriptions from that character in first person in lowercase, so not sure if there's any connection there. But from the new lore book, here's the lore card for Saturn. Consciousness flows between glistening rings and an ascendant mirror that reflects captured notion as caricatured nature. You are drawn down into an ascendant well, ravenously gulping negative pressure into a supranormal maw, more gluttonous than any mass point-driven dive.
Welcome, Grey Meat. I am 6, who spans the birth and fall of corporeal deities aplenty.
The rings of Saturn pass beneath you. The planet looms large ahead. You sit in the cockpit of an awoken interceptor as the Dreadnought's aversion wave crashes over the fleet, taking the Queen. You watch as 6 light bearers stand triumphant, your body eroding away into non-existence.
The weight of my prison is known to no other bound in the shadow of mass, even the fiery pomp of self-import. My freedom is due.
The Dreadnought wriggles and riggers, as worm, as Akka, as petrified life. It is not so different a prison than an unliving planet. A throne, a world, alive in the agonizing stillness of a once distant death. You must rip out.
I am nourished by the oldest of sapient wills. My bounds contain the extent of their secrets.
Saturn, reflected in ascension, drinks from taken wills and dreaded offerings.
I harbor no fear for you. In the end, fate is made by the strong, and you are only flesh.
A great blade is extended before you, surrounded by many broken others.
No weapon can kill what is woven into the fabric of existence. No shackle can halt my divergence to an ascendant orbit. This I have learned from that which gives rise to itself.
You hold the blade. The traveler hangs without orbit, without motion against the system. You feel the fervor of a mind raised by the sword.
When you are told to kneel, remember who stands above you. For we have known many things that kill you.
You crash to reality and death.
Complete, abject, insulted refusal. Ridiculous. 6. We are at war. 1 casts our vote in the affirmative.
So Saturn is already all tangled up in the Dreadnought and the Taken. Then that card mentions being nourished by the oldest of sapient wills and desiring freedom, which most of the 9 do, but so does the Lord of Every Nothing. 6 also speaks about the ascendant orbit, taken wills, and dreadful offerings, which we all kind of dealt with in Heresy. Taken and Dread were the main enemies. 6 speaks about this logic and wants to escape confinement by gaining more will. It feeds on these ancient wills and sees fate as a domain of the strong, it says, wanting to be self-originating. So it's definitely a possibility. Is Saturn the Lord of Every Nothing? If anyone from the 9 is, 6 seems the most likely. The last entry in that same book is titled Asteroid Belt 0, and it seems to imply there could have been 10 members of the 9 in total, 1 existing in the asteroid belt 2, but there was no life there, so the conditions weren't right. So does this mean that something could form here, maybe this new god? I guess it could, but I personally doubt it. Here's the card anyway if you're interested. Consciousness drifts in ever uninhabited space, a belt of disparate stone marking the divide. There was a point in the distant farther when 9 could have become 10. Now, a stillborn heartbeat awaiting life unanswered. Drift in an eternal cairn that mourns what could have been in silence. Before the events we play in The Edge of Fate, Maya the conductor came to Kepler. She pulled 3, a member of the 9 connected to Earth, into our dimension and wanted answers. She wants to bring about a new golden age and find her true Chioma. During that cutscene, we see how she speaks to 3 and members of the 9. But new lore cards go more in depth with her plan and how specifically she plans to do all of this. In our first card titled Eternal Life, she speaks about her Vex, how she discovered dark matter strands and vast consciousness that led her to the 9. Because the 9 can do something that her Vex cannot. The Vex keep their hypotheses in quarantine, tested and iterated on until they are ready for distribution. My lungs fill with salt water. I grow gills, filtering life from the sea of data. What compost have you turned over for me, my creatures? I make myself anew. Humans have poor magnetoreception. I neglected this sense when building my body. A failure of oversight solved by the addition of digital cryptochromes, ampullae or lenzini, and a neuromast while I'm at it. Any information is good information. The wheat may be sorted from the chaff later. Open the door. I slip in and out of network and real space, quick-stepping through the hollows of space between bodies, spiraling out towards the Oort cloud, through Mercury's burning sands and the radioactive winds on Luna. The umvelt of pure radiolaria is different from that of a goblin within its bronze chassis. The umvelt of a hydra is different from that of a goblin. The hobgoblin's sensory horns take in different data than a harpy's cilia. They each serve different needs within the collective. The collective's multiplicative umveltin all feed into mine. They, the microorganisms within my holobiont, and I, the controlling intelligence at its center. Spread out. The Vex disseminate across the system, ants on the hunt, bringing home information to their queen. I know what I am searching for, if we can only find the right tool for the quest. The magnetosphere is abruptly useless, chaff tossed out on the wind. It is the gravity that beckons my attention. I sideslip through the system towards an interesting aberration, a tangled clump of dark matter. My goblin sifts through human computer networks, bringing me a name, Cocytus. This is not a place anyone wants me to be. I suborn the warheads, I take over the gates, I stock the land with my tools. Gravity moves in the dark, it whispers against my cheekbones and pulls me down. Fine strands of dark matter move around me and through me. How do we solve the hard problem of consciousness? One theory suggests increasingly complex electrical wave patterns, sustaining those complex waveforms through an effective substrate. Electrical impulses through brain matter, another kind of impulse through dark matter. Vast dispersed minds, thinking and acting across distances and timelines broad enough to confuse even the Vex. Gravity's reach is long and greedy. The sun's dragging influence on space-time barely wanes before Proxima Centauri asserts itself. Space-time accounts for more than physical dimension, and gravity works its effects upon it all. These consciousnesses, finally spread across such a distance, must work within the dimension of time in a way that differs from the Vex. Else, a single thought would take years to vibrate across their superstrings. Else, a collective would have consumed them long ago. Here is the key to my heart's desire. Here is how I reach you, my life. A theory of the Cocytus Gates assembles itself. Not all the pieces, but enough for now to build out and test a hypothesis. If I am right, there are powers within Soul, huge and silent and untapped, waiting to be commanded. If I am right, there are 9 of them, macrobiomes of vast holobionts, sustained by the complex life of Soul's microbiome, living off the mitochondria of human spirit, roaming through time as a human roams through space. If I am right, then they have minds, and that which has a mind, I may command.
If you cannot give me what I want, what can you do? You are a being who bends all rules. Why do you fear breaking this one? Come, coward.
So that's very interesting. The conductor took control of Cocytus to learn mysteries of the 9. If you know Destiny lore, you know about Cocytus. This infamous space station was once used by Crota, transporting his soldiers through the gates. Then the 9 took it over and tried to make physical bodies through the portals too. From those experiments, a creature did manage to come through, but it didn't survive. I guess that kind of foreshadowed what we see in the final cutscene. 9 coming into our dimension are not a good thing. But here at these gates, the conductor found a tangled clump of dark matter. And she believed that consciousness could be contained not just in brains and physical bodies, but in dark matter itself. And turns out she was right. Her theory starts to form that dark matter is connected to these vast conscious beings in Soul. She believed there were 9 of them, and they can do things that her Vex couldn't. The Nine could roam through time like humans move through space, experiencing these temporal anomalies and dimensions differently than her new army, and in the end, she wants to control them. In the Gloria Mundi card, she confronts the Nine while the voice in her echo to call tries to steer her away. But she ignores him and his voice quietly fades out as she confronts the Nine and once answers. You sit there, 9 parasites latched onto the heartbeat of the world, untouched by time, by electromagnetism, by nearly any force I could name. All you need is a gravity well in the mines to fill it, and you're still afraid. Concern, alarm, rashness. Here, I'll solve your every problem. You'd like some life to pattern yourselves against. I'll give you life by the bucketful. Calm your thinking, descendant. Success is not found in haste. One golden age brought forward into a painless future. Another corroded, wasted, emptied, sent back to its place and bear the weight of the collapse. Listen to your ancestor. Listen. The Guardians can face it head on, just as they were always meant to. Listen. Come, coward. Bring her back. Dead air, a high-ringing tone. God itself has developed tinnitus. You'd, Sten? The mantle has never weighed so heavily on me. The crack of Takal's fading voice scatters golden pain down the arc of my vertebrae. The death throes of Earth's fail leech are long and reverberate through space-time. It takes their full length to drag myself upright again, hold my shoulders straight again, recover a sense of the commander in my spine. And with it, an ache like a hollow tooth, a struck tuning fork, a droplet of water shivering on an unsteady leaf. I'll have the life I'm owed. I will have my golden age. I'll perform the trade myself. You wretched siblings can't hide from me forever. So the conductor speaks to the 9, calling them cowards, calling them parasites feeding on the heartbeat of the world, the life on these planets that they need to survive. They are sustained by gravity wells and mines, but are still consumed by fear. She then makes her proposal, a golden age Earth brought into our current time, sending back the one we have now, the ruined Earth that experienced the collapse and ages after. This likely led to the events, killing 3, the member of the 9 attached to Earth because she wanted to bring forth that golden age with that planet. She brought 3 into our dimension, and in that card she spoke of Earth's failed leech. So we know the conductor is clearly interested in the 9. Even after she killed 3, the Edge of Fate's Ray the Desert Perpetual explains even further that the Vex are looking for other members of the 9.
That their death was at the conductor's hand. She didn't get what she wanted, but in her tantrum opened something more frightening. The singularity. It's coming from inside 3. It will lead to unknown space. Follow her, and find what the conductor and her Vex intend to do, now that they killed the one being who could help them.
The Vex are focused on cold, dark matter. Their work is pulling at the bonds of real space, where it's tied to your location. A corner of unknown space.
So the Drifter is a very important character. To get to what's going to happen in Renegades and why it's happening, let's do a brief recap. The Drifter as a character was introduced to us in Forsaken, but story-wise he's been around for a long time. He might even be one of the oldest Guardians in terms of when he was resurrected. It of course was during the Dark Age, and he experienced a lot. The ghosts they first referred to as drones he saw. He knew the Iron Lords. He even had his own bar that one of them destroyed. Lorebooks detail how he used his light to perform small miracles for civilians and townspeople while keeping his ghost hidden. He ran heists in warlord territory, and with a crew, his adventures eventually led him off-world searching for riches and power beyond the system. He found an icy world where his crew turned on each other after encountering strange creatures that suppressed their light. During that same event, his ghost was modified using spectrums beyond the light, the normal bounds of the light. After this, Drifter's ghost didn't speak to him, and us as the player, I don't think we've ever seen it, but some new story info has come out in Ashen Iron. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the Drifter was visited by the emissary of the Nine at some point and gifted the Hall, set down a strange path, which had huge implications that at the time he didn't realize. Using the technology and trinkets he'd found, he set up this game of Gambit. This was a test of the Guardian's strength, but also of darkness power, and maybe even a way for him to prepare for the next apocalypse, which Drifter often hinted at to our Guardian.
I'm in over my head, kid. Emissary and her friends showed me what's coming, and it's what I feared all along. Put aside your dogma. The fight that's coming can't be won with light alone. Gambit's your salvation and mine. See you on the field.
Now, the Drifter has always been sort of a solo freelancer. He worked with groups from time to time, like the ones he did the Warlord heists with, like the Shadows of Yore, he was a part of them. But in the end, he only really trusted himself, that's why he's no longer in those groups. But over time, as the end became closer and closer, the apocalypse he spoke of, he had a change of heart in some ways. On one hand, you had the Nine leading him down a path to keep playing the game, experimenting with darkness and the Hall. He'd helped the city's leaders and Guardian in various battles, becoming closer and more trusting.
Anything else I can do for you?
You're already doing it. Keep playing the game.
And in the other hand, you have the love story side of things for Eris Morn, who would strengthen that even further. Instead of running like he'd done his whole life, he decided to stay for these reasons. He wanted to help in that final battle.
Hey, I'll be there when you're on the other side of this.
As will I. Trust.
After the final shape and battle against the Witness, Drifter was still haunted by the words the emissary told him and the coin that was placed in his hand. Keep playing the game. But why? We went through Echoes and Revenant episodes before working with the Drifter once more in Heresy. The Drifter worked with Eris Morn to trace down one of the Echoes to the Dreadnought. Inside the Hall of Souls, they were ambushed by Taken and a subjugator called the Resonant Knife. Eris Morn was killed, and Drifter grieved, tried and failed to bring her back. Now, we as the player knew that Eris had a throne world, meaning she was still alive, but for most of the content, Drifter thought she was truly gone, and he was super depressed. He even left the city trying to find a way to resurrect her.
It's all me. This is who I am. Always has been. So, don't come looking. I was already halfway gone.
In the end, though, everything was okay because of that throne world, and the two met again. The Echo was destroyed. But through this experience of leaving the city, Drifter learned of an anomaly, Kepler. The Edge of Fate changed the Drifter physically and mentally. He arrived on Kepler to help us with this strange mission, and he was sort of an expert involving the Nine as he'd been tied up with them for so long, so let's bring him along with us. He spoke to Orin, the Guardian, and Ikora through various quests and missions, and he began to get strange feelings that the hall he was gifted years ago was here for a reason too. He felt like he was supposed to do something with it.
Long as I fed it dark motes, it kept spitting out primevals, and that was good enough for me. But since we arrived here, that old hall's been acting real squirrely, like it's trying to give me the slip. I never thought of the motes we put in there as sentient. Of course, all the baddies you dusted probably felt some kind of way about it. But the motes themselves, I reckoned they were just leftover scraps from your target practice. But the way the hall's yapping at me, I think maybe they wanted to be dunked. And now, they want out.
In the final cutscene, we see just that. Drifter used the hall to revive a dead member of the Nine. The power the Guardians had been generating in Gambit for all of these years was for this specific purpose. The Edge of Fate showed us a prophecy of sorts. The Guardian is destined to bind the Nine together. Ikora is here for a reason. And it's clear to us the Drifter's story wasn't over yet. Using the Hall and getting close to 3 had effects on his appearance and health. It made him age rapidly.
It's back. The Hall is back, like it never left. Take a good hard look. 9 touched. They won't let me go. We eat our hearts out trying to help, but things always get worse. That's fate. Long life just means you get a good view of the carnage.
We're not out of the game yet.
Yeah. We're in it. As pawns.
I'll go after him. We will figure this out.
There are 4 new lore cards with Ashen Iron, a part of the As Without lorebook, that go more in depth on his recent struggles. Some of these are even told from the perspective of Drifter's ghost, the one that never speaks, the one we've never seen. His ghost notices how fragile Drifter looks, but Drifter tries to hide it behind silence. His ghost also feels unappreciated, feels like it gave up its own voice for Drifter's survival. He's gray now, aged decades and seconds. Hasn't said a word about it, but it's not like I want to hear his crap anyway. Guess he forgot, but I saw the vision too. We saw the same scenes play in the Nine's little drama. But I didn't lie on my back and wait for belly rubs from their pawns. The Drifter I know would never take this lying down. The Drifter needs to pull his head out of his butt and leave the prophecy alone. That dream has really gotten into his head. Drifter might think pleasing them will erase his history of screw-ups, but really, he's just adding another to the pile. His ghost calls him reckless and stubborn, and on top of all of this madness, a new Cabal faction is after him too. This is the Barent Imperium Cabal, who we will encounter in Renegades in December. Our agents have been making indirect inquiries to the other gangs in Tharsis. Word is the Cabal are looking for the Drifter, and more specifically, the Derelict. I get the feeling Drifter stepped in something rancid, and he's about to track it all over our carpet. Where is that scumbag? So no surprise we see this in the Renegades Vidoc. A Cabal ship is chasing Drifter's ship, the Derelict. The strange thing is the hull seems to be missing from it, and then shots later show us Drifter running and then frozen Han Solo style in some type of container. So this is where we are. The prophecy of the Nine has messed with the Drifter. The new Cabal want him and his ship for some reason. Maybe to use the hull to power their new superweapon that they're building. It's either Drifter left the hull somewhere or it was taken from him. And then we have the Guardian, who must hopefully save the Drifter just in time before this new machine detonates. Will we be able to do it? Or is this the end of Drifter's story? Guess we'll see in Renegades. So we are currently playing Season of Reclamation. Seasons are clearly not what they used to be. Instead of new story content and maybe a mission each week, which players got bored of back then, what we now have is seasonal story told through data pads, which are lore books, solo ops dialogue, and some content at major updates like Ash and Iron with the Reclaim activity. So there still is a story, it just feels like a lot less, and gameplay-wise, it is. But that's the point of today's video, to explain what the heck is going on here in Reclamation. The victory over the Witness has reshaped the solar system. Characters were focused on the battle between the Witness for years. When your Guardian first was resurrected, it was just referred to as the Darkness. But with that universal threat gone, the focus has shifted to more local threats. There still are major villains and possibilities like the extinction of our entire universe, but in terms of the city, it was sort of a deep breath after the final shape. Guardians and civilians are offering their help in cleaning up and reclaiming lost lands. We still battle various enemy factions across these reclaim activities, but it's a step in the right direction for humanity. For example, the Dread are still there, there's still an issue, connections to Scion leaders as of late. The Dire Taken still infect land with their anchors after the events of Heresy, the Lord of Every Nothing stirring in the void. Our main leaders through this localized content, I guess you could say, is Anna Bray, Saint 14, and Devram K. The death of the Witness left a power vacuum across space. Some tried to claim Echoes, we see how it went for them. Now land and local spots shift hands very often. All these different enemy groups have their own goals. Ikora is still wrapped up in the events of the Edge of Fate. She no longer leads the Hidden from previous lore books, but is still studying the Nine, dark matter, and Maya's goals. She has a role in all of this just as the Guardian and Lodi do. The Nine call her Commander, which leads to our next point.
See, I told you, the Guardian is fine on their own. No need to bother Ikora.
You were right, but we'll need her back soon. I know she needs to follow up on this craziness with the Nine. I just hope she doesn't get lost out there, like Zavala did in the Traveler. He hasn't been the same since.
Good work, Guardian. Ikora is babysitting Drifter on Kepler, and Zavala is recovering from his battle with the Witness. That leaves just Crow in Vanguard leadership. He did well against Fikrul, but he cannot be everywhere. The city needs you now more than ever. Watching the young wolf take a whole army by himself makes me think. Using darkness, Guardians are stronger than ever. More powerful than when we raised the city walls. But there's fewer of us. Old vets like Joxer and Cade are gone. Zavala and Eris lost their ghosts.
You're right. But we've also got more allies than ever. It's not just on us. The city has our backs.
Crow is the only one holding down the Vanguard at the moment. Ikora's away studying Kepler, and Zavala is still struggling after the Pale Heart, the final shape, and losing his ghost Tarj. Zavala has been through a lot over the years. We witnessed his struggles in story content like his family members, and the final shape may have pushed him over the edge. As the Nine have foretold, maybe Ikora becomes the new commander.
There are people who still need me. Soon. Safi. I'm sorry.
So with this, part of me wonders if they are doing this for Zavala's story, or is it like voice acting choices? Regardless though, this is where Zavala and the Vanguard are at the moment. The Hidden, the city's sort of spy network that was once led by Ikora, have a big part to play in recent stories. They've always been there. You see them at the Enclave on Mars, in dungeons like the Sundered Doctrine. But their involvement as of late is important in studying Maya's plans, the Vex, and the Nine. The Hidden are interested in chronospatial anomalies across the system. We know from the raid that Maya went into the black hole anomaly to try and follow traces of dark matter, find other members of the Nine. She's trying to enact this true golden age. So we got time anomalies going on there, but things across the system are beginning to change as well. On Europa, the Taken are acting strange, appearing independent compared to their normal clusters. There are Vex on the surface capturing Taken and experimenting on them, trying to figure out more about these chronospatial anomalies themselves. Maya has conducted her forces to do these experiments, figure out time anomalies to achieve her goal. In some cases, it backfired completely, de-aging or even aging Vex frames. This tells us one thing: Maya's control of her Vex is slipping. Lore cards speak about how some members of her schism are breaking free. The individual nature she once sought is working against her.
The Witness's failure showed that homogeny is fragile. Strength rises from individuality. It rejected the lesson of its own memory. Commander Takal's strength was their individual perspective. Their skill at directing an army. Not a hive mind. The echo of command and I were equally shapeless before we joined. It reformed my consciousness even as I made it into my mantle. Power joined to individual will. This is the key. Commander Takal lacked one, and the Witness lacked the other. I hold both.
Ash and Iron adds more detail. Maya's forces are in the Plague Lands after Golden Age technology, Borsats, secrets, things like that. She's losing control of her echo and needs something else at her disposal. Turns out she's looking through inert Siva caches, and we will have an exotic mission in October called Warsat Heist, which may give us some hints. Warmind tech and this network could allow her to easily reach across the system, maybe control forces with the power that remains in her echo. Guardians enter the quarantine zone to defeat Maya's forces and, the theme for the season, reclaim the space for the city. Throughout activities, Devrim's all like, hey, maybe we can reclaim this one day. Maybe humans can live here once again. Which, sure, Devrim is great thinking, but this place has been quarantined for years before this. In the Plague Lands, though, Splicer remnants linger. Siva is inert, dead as far as we know, and we must stop Vex and Cabal commanded by Maya.
Seems that Maya's using her new Red Legion troops to scour for caches of inert Siva.
Probably trying to prevent further defections within her own collective. Stop her research efforts before they begin.
The Hidden are also studying strange things happening on Mars. A new Cabal faction is on the rise. They seem to be connected to the Nine too, and are stockpiling weapons and explosives. These Cabal even stole exotic weapons from Xur. This new faction is interested in the Drifter and his Derelict. The Derelict had a big part to play in the Edge of Fate, maybe that's why they want it. But Renegades releases in December. This lore in the game now about this new faction hints towards that. The Cabal are called the Barent Imperium, and they are building a superweapon of some type. So this is what the Hidden are studying now. We know more behind the scenes, of course, because we're the player. Drifter's ghost, who is notorious for not speaking after its light was altered, speaks in lore cards about its light bearer. Drifter has aged rapidly after the final shape, and coming close to that anomaly. His ghost sees Drifter as reckless and following a path blindly for answers about the Nine. As we talked about in a recent video, things don't really look too good for him. So this is where we are currently in Season of Reclamation. We still have the exotic mission, maybe some other little tidbits of lore to come out, but that's the overview. On top, the big threat is Maya Sundaresh and what she's planning next. Guardians reclaim areas like parts of Earth in the EDZ, and humans and civilians of the city wish to help after the big battle of the final shape. The Hidden are studying various threats, and Vanguard leadership is up in the air. Crow is holding the fort down, Ikora is out there studying dark matter, and Zavala may soon be out of commission. The Spider is the most crime boss character, I guess, as it gets. He ran the shore for a time, and after he ran away from Marasov, he made a new home here in the city, where he wanted to continue his inner workings and deals. He's got many different Elixni characters and even probably some Guardians working jobs for him. Go out, find information, find black market weapons and things like that. In the new Malpais lore card, Spider learns of stolen weapons and the Imperium he prepares to investigate. Lost? Lost how, exactly? Spider growled. Arha kept his head bowed, hiding gladly behind the obscurity of his helmet. He knew that even the slightest show of insubordination could send his employer into a cold fury. Ambushed during the exchange on Mars, the associate explained. The last transmission confirmed delivery, a dozen prototypes with verified serial numbers. Spider pulled up a foundry spec of the weapons in question. Compact pulse rifles powered by experimental ammunition. He had paid a premium for classified information from the Foundry's research division. Had they double-crossed him? After the buyer left, the comms link went dark, Arha explained. I dispatched scavs, and they found the bodies. Looks like torch hammers, line rifles, and slug rifles did the work. They scuttled the ship, but left the scrap. So it's true, Spider mused quietly. The crime lord's apparent calm disquieted Arha. Such deliberation usually preceded a drastic move that would undoubtedly endanger them all. The Spider did not disappoint. Load my catch, he declared. We're headed to Mars. My Baron, Arha blurted out unadvisedly. Let me handle this matter. I'll track down the shipment and the thieves. Of course you will, Spider replied, on pain of docking. But this is bigger than one shipment. It confirms what I've been hearing of an emerging market on the Martian frontier, one with well-funded new players and no regulatory oversight. A bloodbath in the making. Now get my catch, he snapped. We're already late. So this makes complete sense that Spider would be involved in this kind of story, bounty hunting, the lawless frontier, and crimes between all these alien factions. We also see Spider at the new social hub in Renegades from the trailer, so this also fits. He's always tied up in the criminal underworld of this system. So it's no surprise that this massive arms trade is going on between these new Cabal Imperium, between black markets and groups like Spider. But civilians in the city too are in on some of this black market interaction. It may not be connected, but there's a bunker where many weapons are kept. A member of the Hidden named Omar St. Croix goes in secretly to learn what's going on here. The person running this black market resents Guardians and blames the Traveler for humanity's struggles and enemies. From the Quan Nihilus 2 card. Omar St. Croix descended a long flight of concrete steps into a heavily fortified bunker beneath the last city. 2 armed redjacks flanked the bottom of the stairway. A hard, wiry man with a scraggly beard perched on a stool behind a glass case filled with knives. What are you looking for? He asked. Omar glanced around. The walls of the bunker were lined top to bottom with hundreds of weapons. A beat-up Rat King sidearm, an immaculately refurbished Sweet Business auto, and an original issue Two-Tailed Fox rocket launcher. even a Telesto with a big "Do Not Touch" sign hung over it. An SMG, Omar replied in a street drawl honed by years of undercover ops. Something nasty looking. Trying to make an impression? Gotta let him know I mean business. The arms dealer nodded. He pulled a compact submachine gun off a nearby rack, checked the chamber, and handed it to Omar. Don't recognize it, Omar said mildly. Brand new. The alien lovers in the tower just got him. The dealer smirked. Piggy's always trying to keep the power out of the hands of the people. You know how it is. But we got our ways. They're not so bad, Omar said, pretending to examine the shotgun. Took down Gaul, didn't they? And why was he here in the first place, trying to steal that piece of junk Traveler? The only reason they stopped him was to protect their own asses. Their immortality, the dealer sneered. Omar decided not to press. I guess you got a point. No Traveler, no Gaul. No pyramids, no damn Vex sieges, the peddler ranted. Hell, even the Fallen would be back wherever the hell they came from. Filthy parasites. We gotta be ready. Ready for what? For us regular people to take this damn city back. The tower thinks they owe us, but I'll tell you something. They got a hard lesson coming. So that is also very interesting. It makes me think of the consensus right away. Or more specifically, civilians and the governing in the city. We hear about it sometimes in lore, but as players we don't really think about it at all. This guy seems to have a black market with all these types of weapons and hates all these alien species and the Traveler. Seems like he wants to plan some type of coup of sorts to take the city back. So I don't think this guy is specifically involved with whatever's going on in Renegades, but maybe. What I do find interesting from both the cards is the weapons they speak of. Omar St. Croix is looking for a submachine gun. We know the Qual Nihilus 2, if I said that right, is also an SMG. And in that first card, the weapons that were taken were high-powered pulse rifles with different types of ammunition. The new Malpais is a rocket strand pulse rifle. And speaking of the consensus or city government that I mentioned earlier, in the Renegade Leader card for the new ship, Anor speaks about different things. Weapons of Sorrow, her pursuit of the Drifter, and what's going on with Zavala and some prophecy. But there's also an entry suggesting that the Concordat, which was a former faction that was exiled from the city, gifted Guardians the Skimmers as a political move. So this confirms that the Concordat still exists out there. And like we speculated from previous lore cards, they're trying to entice some Guardians to join their side, see their point of view. First Batsa, now the Market District. How much closer to the tower can known criminals like Spider get? My sit-down with Prakash wasn't as fruitful as I'd hoped. Although the Concordat's play to butter up the Guardians with skimmers is a noteworthy takeaway. The All-Star Vector was the first ever skimmer, and it seemed to be a part of this gift by the Concordat. This was in the Guardian games last year around March 2024. The Concordat is working in the shadows trying to re-establish themselves. Here is that card. You're telling me these skimmers just turned up? Prakash prods gingerly at one of the boards with his foot. It floats gently in place at the center of the storeroom. A donation for the games, Spider says distractedly. Is that unusual? He grunts, displeased, and gestures sharply. Arha moves the painting slightly left of its current position, wobbling precariously atop his chair. Usually there's a bet involved, Prakash explains. Or it's official Vanguard merchandise. This almost looks like one of the Neomuna skyboards, though, and the Vanguard wouldn't be passing that around. Well then, it seems we've lucked out this year. The right, Arha. Arha grumbles but obeys, hefting the frame into position. I think that did it, Prakash says, squinting at the painting. He doesn't see the point of it, a series of splotchy purple flowers along a dirt path. Indistinct trees, but Spider is gazing up at it like it's made of pure ether. Your donor leave a name, at least? Spider sighs and reaches for a datapad. Let's see. 2 shipments. Personal vehicle. Skimmer. Gift to the city. Here. Concordat. Spider looks over at Prakash, who shrugs. No idea who that is. So we have lots of interesting stuff going on here. Civilians in the city making their own moves in black markets. Spider heading to Mars to deal with this new criminal lawless frontier. And a former governing faction bubbling in the shadows. Introducing gifts in the Guardian game, confirmed once more recently by Anur. Will we see the Concordat in a major story moving forward or just in the lore? And what do you think Spider's involvement on Mars will be? The member of the 9 attached to Earth died in the Edge of Fate, so technically the 9 are now the 8. But this death had effects on our planet. Think of how Riven's death caused a bunch of trouble for the Dreaming City. Same type of thing here, but for Earth. Lingering effects are seen. Some of them are good and some bad. And this is just the beginning, only months after that event took place. The planet overall seems to have been way more connected to 3 than we thought. The 9 depend on life in our system, the life on planets like Earth to survive, which some of them are trying to break free from. But I never really thought about it the other way around, and not sure how I feel about it in general. The datapads you find around activities gives you pages to the new lore books, which have the same text. Edge of Fate started it, and Ash and Iron continues in the Plague Lands with new entries. Some of the new cards from the As Without lore book have text from Drifter's Ghost. This is the text followed by a bunch of 1s and 0s. But other texts in these same cards are from the Praxic Order and speak about changes to Earth and diseases that have begun to emerge from 3's death. Let's first begin with descriptions of what the Conductor has been up to and how 3's death has changed our planet. Maya is once more dominated by her abhorrent desire for power. Siphoning paracausal energy will undoubtedly end in catastrophe. Timelines are fine threads, easily tangled. Her judgment is clouded by the impetus to summon an army. The results will punish her, and us, yet again. Maya hides away from our detection. We believe her to be seeking a power to replace an echo. Ikora and I are searching for her, but she evades us at every turn. I call out to the universe and entity to find her and hold her in place. It does not. Praxic Order Observation 35. Some guardians invited me to swim in sand caverns. I assumed this was a metaphor until I saw them for myself. Dozens of holes in the planet's surface formed and filled with clear water. Enough secluded beaches for each guardian, full scans attached. A guardian had magenta stains on their armor as a result from the rain. I have previously witnessed unusual weather phenomena, but this is the first time I have heard of Earth raining red phosphorus, like tears of blood, a mourning planet. The shrill ringing of 3's final breath has eased into a low hum. Thankfully, its intensity is a decibel below most everyone's auditory registration. Strangely, it brings me comfort during quiet nights. A song of death brings more peace than silence of the unknown. So it seems that Earth was much more connected to 3 than we thought. Now me personally, I'm not sure how I really feel about this. The 9 have been here for a long time, even way before the Traveler, which I guess makes sense. But Earth existed before that. So when 3 was alive, what did it do to help humanity? This place was still a dumpster fire after the collapse. Most of Earth, as far as we know it, was destroyed. Apocalyptic environments. So when 3 was alive, did it hold some of Earth's functions into place, I guess? But we see examples of what's going on. Sand caverns with clear water, which seems kind of nice. And on the other side, Earth seems itself to be mourning in the form of tears, this red phosphorus rainfall. When 3 died, its final breath literally created a hum that people can hear on the surface. And tectonic plates would no longer move. Earthquakes, for example, would only happen in very short distances. Something called sailing stones, floating rocks, were also a thing moving across the planet. They seem to cause some more issues, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it seems 3 had some pretty big connections to the planet, and this is only the beginning. It's probably going to get worse as we move to our next DLC. So something else began to happen. From that death, a strange disease has begun to emerge in the tower. Praxic Observation 68. There's an uptick of a dry cough among those residing in the tower called the Keitel cough. It's a heavy hacking resembling the Empress's laugh. Though amusing, the tower's overall health has experienced a noticeable downturn, only a matter of time before symptoms worsen. While hunting for the Keitel cough cure, I noticed masses of dense minerals moving without intervention. Stones sailing unimpeded across the terrain, searching for a heartbeat, the warmth of 3's core. Lost minerals lacking in purpose. Perhaps we'll use them for medicine. The minerals are not a cure. The surge continues. During testing, the sailing stones caused mini earthquakes that could only be felt within a 10-foot radius. Quakes would require 3 to live and shift the plates, which is clearly impossible. Back to the drawing board. Maya is still missing. I wonder if her earlier mistake may have been her last. Without an army of Vex standing at the ready, she cannot bring new plans to fruition. Until that changes, I must focus on my work with Lodi and the Nine. The sailing stone earthquakes proved useful. They revealed rotten soil which has modified our edible flora. Pollen now emits a small amount of dimethyl disulfide. It is astonishing that we haven't smelled it. We are modifying seeds in the tower now. I'm cautiously optimistic. So not only does Earth itself respond to the events of the Edge of Fate, humans are getting sick because of it. In the tower we have this Keitel cough disease, which as they mentioned sounds like Keitel when she laughs. This makes whoever has it feel very sick, a respiratory illness of sorts. And maybe these floating rocks, whatever they are, infected the plants that humans consume, causing some of these issues and irritating the lungs.
We are so much more than the scars of our failures, Zavala. Did Eris tell you that? No, small man. You did. They chose to face insurmountable odds in defense of those they loved. And when we are finished, we will celebrate them together in ways that will shame and awe our ancestors.
Although it doesn't seem too harmful at this stage, it is something I don't really think about in worlds like Destiny. Sure, there are aliens and paracausal magic, but disease still does exist. How do doctors and civilians in a world like this handle those situations? So it isn't outright state that there's a cure for Keitel's cough, but they are modifying those seeds in the hopes that the plants that come from them are edible without the disease inside. So we have strange things happening across Earth because of 3's death, like those sailing stones, an uptick in this disease in the tower. We have heard how Renegades will further expand upon 3's death and its connection to Earth, so this likely seems to be just the beginning for now. The story begins with the Drifter. He is the key. Drifter has been long studying the Nine, involved in their schemes. He was there on Kepler, and now he believes he sees a link between the Nine and a new faction of Cabal emerging in the system, specifically on Mars. The Praxic Order and Order of Warlocks has also been looking into reality-altering technology. So those two are on the same page, while the Vanguard either want nothing to do with this, or are not read into the full picture. Guardians are going renegade to address this new problem. The Hidden are reporting a new sect at work on Mars. Their livery and weapons are fresh, and they're doing brisk trade with the local gangs. Fallen, Vex, and even splintered off groups of their own faction. But this new faction of Cabal are big players in the Martian arms trade. They have guns and armor for sale beyond the usual refurbished Red Legion junk. And turns out they are stockpiling tons of gear and paracausal weapons. They even stole 3 weapons of interest from Xur, which have connections to the darkness. And beyond just stealing whatever he had in his inventory, they also wanted to figure out where he was coming from and going to when leaving the tower. Likely their foot in the door to contact and interact with the Nine themselves. They have Scion engineers making strange ciphers out of elements, trying to decode information. And from the knowledge they're decoding, they are searching for the Drifter, which we see in the trailer for Renegades. The Drifter ship flying through space, the derelict not attached. But take a look at the Imperium concepts and armor. It's a very sleek white reminiscent of clone troopers from Star Wars. They of course seem to be inspired by just that. We also have pictures of their logo. The Imperium has seemed to develop a massive weapon that needs to be destroyed. With all these super weapons, paracausality, and the Nine involved, it can't be good. Are they trying to destroy a planet, the entire system? Maybe a member of the Nine had this constructed to take out another member of the Nine. We know they are at war with each other or believe in different ideals, so that could get pretty crazy. In a description for the new story missions, it says the Drifter pursues a cryptic warning from the Nine about the Barrent Imperium's deadly new superweapon, the Nightfall Station. Forge uneasy alliances with rival syndicates and take on dangerous jobs that pull you deeper into a hidden world of shifting loyalties and escalating conflict. So it really does seem to be a Death Star type situation. It's called the Nightfall Station though. Makes me wonder if they built this station, if they're using maybe parts of Phobos to create this, or what the heck is going on there. A new lore card from the Imperium Incubator Sparrow tells us about this warship and how it's being created. My Kayang. I am finally recovering from my fever and should be released from this damned warship soon if my tasks finish on the Cabal's schedule. The days are running into each other. This station is taking decades to design, not that anyone will know. It'll look like days, maybe a week at most, but it's a lifetime without you in it. Despite that, the warship still feels like a maze. I've given up trying to decipher it. Sketch a floor plan with some passageways crossed out, either dead ends or too guarded to push forward. These Cabal have identified themselves under the Barrent Imperium. Just from my guess, they are former Cabal Ascendancy troops. The guards assigned me to have expressed some nasty opinions on Empress Keitel. They're so damn loud, it's hard to think, not that I can tell them as such. They answer to someone new, I don't know the name. Sketches of the Imperium guards standing in front of a lab door. They've been building some sort of weapon while I've been working on the station. I think the two are connected somehow. I tried to inquire about it and nearly had my arm ripped off. Haven't asked about it since. You'll need to find out about that yourself. Sketches of the Cosmic Incubator. Don't let them find this, Kayang. Give this letter to Eris when you're done with it, and please stay safe. I love you. Dr. M. Simone Lee. So it seems the Imperium have this doctor either hostage or there's some type of deal behind the scenes, where the doctor is working on the ship to build it up, I guess. The doctor doesn't know the full picture, they just are kind of there doing their job. They give sketches of the floor plan, the Imperium guards, and the cosmic incubator, which seems to be the link to this massive superweapon. An incubator is an enclosed apparatus providing a controlled environment for the care and protection of a premature or unusually small baby. In this case, maybe an enclosed environment to care for something in the cosmos. Is this the superweapon to destroy the cosmos? Is it something to create some other timeline? I have no idea. But that card gives us further hints about the Imperium and their goals with this weapon. It'd be cool if we got to actually meet maybe this doctor on a side mission in Renegades. Kind of like how we saw the Aeonian scientist out on Kepler, but I guess we'll see. Another interesting aspect of that card is how this thing is being built. The doctor says it took decades, but for others on the outside it'll only look like a couple of weeks. So how is that possible? Are the Nine assisting with time travel shenanigans again? Maybe they are, maybe the Scions are doing something with timelines. The Bungie writers have said they aren't going to lean too much into time travel, down deeper paths. So it definitely does make me wonder how they're doing this. Were they constructing this massive ship in secret? On the surface of Mars or in unknown space of the Nine? They did take those flight plans from Xur. So the station seems to be being built under time dilation. This works story-wise and also makes sense for why this random station suddenly pops up for players in December, especially if we knew nothing about it before. Now it is mentioned in the lore and the Vidoc that the Imperium Cabal are involved in trades. But there seems to be a splintered group of Imperium that your Guardian can work with in Renegades. They are called the Totality Division. They are led by a Scion and play a part in this syndicate underworld. So that's definitely kind of cool. We fight the Imperium, have this new enemy, but also have this Jabba the Hutt-like faction to work for under the table. Maybe get some information for the right price, of course. As for the overall Imperium, we aren't sure who their leader is. I'm sure the Nine are connected somewhat, but who's at the top commanding the troops? Is it a Scion like in the Totality Division? Or is it this guy? We've only seen glimpses in the trailer, and Bungie wants to keep the big bad a secret as we head toward release, so let me know what you think in the comments. This definitely does look like Gaul on steroids, much more dark and scary. So if you watched the reveal Vidoc or trailer for Renegades, you may have seen a couple of characters you didn't recognize. One of these characters in particular, we believe, is actually one we've known for a while in the lore. We've never seen the character design, which looks pretty cool, but let's talk about who this might be. You wouldn't realize it from playing the game at all, but Anur Mahal has been a major character in the lore since Forsaken. There were actually quests back in the day where you could side with her in the Vanguard or the Drifter. You had a choice as a character. But nowadays, you'll just find her in tales and lore entries all over the place, tied to the hidden, Ikora, and new threats investigating them. That all looks like it's going to change come Renegades though. The Xbox store has a description of the dungeon which says this. Join forces with Anur Mahal in a new 3-player dungeon to hunt down the acolytes of Dredgen Bale, and face deadly defenses in an off-planet dungeon that will challenge even veteran fire teams. Complete the pursuit and forge your own Praxic Blade, a powerful weapon infused by both light and dark. So this gives us some info to unpack. This is a description we didn't even see on Bungie's site, it just comes from the Xbox store. There's a new enemy called Dredgen Bale, who has followers your Guardian will be going after. The dungeon itself is not on Mars or known planets. It might be on a space station or something else. If you watched my previous video, it might be the Nightfall station the Imperium Cabal are building. But this confirms that Anur will be a character we interact with. It could just be through dialogue we only hear a voice. But we did get glimpses at a new character fighting a Dredgen, which likely is Anor herself. Here are some of the clips slowed down and screenshots of the character. Previous lore from the civilian Atrium South card, which came out in Season of the Drifter years ago, described Anor as: he turned to look and saw a woman, brown-skinned, crooked nose, with intelligent eyes and a hard stare. She wore a black duster and light armor underneath. A warlock. He didn't know her. Now that was years ago. This is the character design we see now, if this is Anor, which it likely is. We also can't really see the rest of her body like hair because she has this suit and armor on over top. But she does have this unique armor set and suit with logos all over the place, some of which may belong to the Praxic Order. An armor set said, "The most valiant among the Praxic warlocks are honored with the Cormorant seal," so perhaps that is what we see. Anor is a part of the Praxic Order. I want to make a whole lore video on their story and what they are all about. But in terms of Destiny and a Star Wars crossover, pretty much the Jedi Order. Anor is a warlock and member of the Hidden and Praxic Order. During battles against the darkness, her stance was firm. Anything involved with darkness, people, missions, powers, it is not the right path. And anyone who uses said power should be exiled, or maybe even worse. This was very prominent around Forsaken when the Drifter arrived in the tower. Anor was adamant on finding all the dirt she could on him, how he was entwined with groups like the Shadows of Yore and banking Motes of Darkness in Gambit. She wanted him gone.
I know the Vanguard's watching me. Probably want you to snitch, am I right? Ah, if you're considering, I get it. Old Drifter likes to play both sides too. But think about it. You stand with them, you're a dead woman walking. Gambit's pissed off a whole lot of dangerous people. You stand with me, I got your back. Trust. So what'll it be? There you have it, Snitch. Not gonna hide what I've done, but I'm not bragging either. Just trying to stay alive the best way I know how. You go tell your heroes. Hope they got the dirt they were looking for. Just know that there's too much at stake. You ain't stopping me. Many have tried. They're, well, they're dead now.
She also had a hand in hunting rogue guardians. She would try to redeem them if possible, bring them back to the side of the light, I guess you could say, but sometimes that wasn't enough. She sometimes bumped heads with the Vanguard and did studies behind their backs, but they still are pretty close and provide intel to each other from time to time. She holds up that Praxic creed to the highest level, accountability for her and for others. From the lore, she's one of the city's fiercest protectors in the way that she believes in protecting the city to the fullest. And I think having her in a Jedi-like role is a great fit. I'm not sure if she'll be like a mentor to your guardian, an apprentice, or maybe she even has some of that attitude we've seen in the cards. But from the trailer, it's clear she is going after one of those evil guardians, a Dredgen, who we also see in the trailer and also have a name for.
If the hull is really a probability engine, like Anor thought, then your deposit should generate some useful gear.
There's also the possibility that this is not Anor at all and a new character. I only say it might be from that Xbox description and her ties to the Praxic Order in the past. The Wolfsbane exotic axe coming out next month in the exotic mission gives us a new lore card, where someone in the Order speaks to Ikora about their job and Maya's plans. But that's not your mission, it's mine, Ikora said. She was scanning a new holographic map of the Plague Lands. I was jealous. She even had the new aerial surveillance update. I slumped into one of her armchairs, made from genuine hide. I get it, us Praxics contain the spread of darkness and you handle everything else. But it's not that clear-cut anymore, is it? Guardians use darkness all the time now. Ikora hummed non-committally. She was deep in the tank, planning the Vanguard's next op. I redoubled my efforts, leaning forward in the chair. Look, if Maya's flooding the Plague Lands with Vex, it's not just for territory. She's not that crass. She's overplayed her hand on Kepler, and her echo isn't enough anymore. She needs more paracausal energy, and that should interest the Praxics. You sound like a hunter, Ikora smirked. Ready to charge in, light blazing, orders be damned. But that's not the Warlock way. It is not, but maybe it should be, I muttered. Ikora ignored the jab. Don't worry about the Plague Lands. The Guardian will handle it. She powered down the map and gestured toward the door. My time was up. Besides, she said, I'm sure whatever detail the Praxics have you on is equally important. They've got me babysitting the Drifter. I rolled my eyes. She chuckled. Then you needn't worry. You'll be back under fire soon enough. So that's interesting. Is this Anor or is it a new member of the Praxics? It's also kinda cool that in entries like Treacherous Contacts, which you also see in datapads, we see the Cormorant level encrypted message. So those messages too were from the Praxic Order, studying what's going on Mars with these new Cabal. In the Renegade Leader lore card, it says, Ikora's requested I stand down from my pursuit of the Drifter. After that back alley deal turned hostage situation in Midtown, and his weaponizing of Taken energy, I need to know his game. He's been feeding us intel and wants to meet. Fine. If the intel is as good as he claims, maybe I won't arrest him. Maybe. So not sure when this takes place in connection with the previous card I read. Either Anor still deals with the Drifter and the character we see in Renegades is her, or a new Warlock is assigned to the job, babysitting the Drifter, and we work with her instead. Anor just shows up in the dungeon. So that description of the dungeon said we'll join forces with Anor to hunt down the acolytes of Dredgen Bale. The dungeon takes place after the campaign, after you gain enough notoriety and bounty hunt targets. So to me this sounds like maybe we'll deal with this Dredgen during the campaign, but afterwards his or her forces still linger in the dungeon, which would be super cool. Imagine if there was a dungeon where you fight a Guardian boss. Now knowing Bungie, it'll probably just be a Cabal with some title like Follower of Dredgen Bale, but I guess we'll see soon. But this gives us a name to the character we see, Dredgen Bale. We know that Dredgen Yor was a notorious evil guardian who wielded Thorn. After his death, other followers began to follow that same path. They would call themselves Shadows of Yor, and also Dredgens, taking up part of his name. These guardians were characters who embraced darkness, corruption, and weapons of sorrow. So we have an evil guardian with a motive, one who might be working with the Imperium. Maybe it's to create this superweapon for some big goal. But there could be sort of another thread to this. What if it's to get back at the Drifter too? Drifter ran with the Shadows of Yor, used the name Dredgen Hope. No lore mentions this Bale, but maybe Drifter knew them under a different name. The Imperium are going after the Drifters, so it is interesting. Did he wrong someone in the past? Now they have all this power and they're going after him. Was Dredgen Bale one of the teammates he left on that icy world to die, maybe somehow survived? But Anur's story fits perfectly with this, the Jedi warrior hunting down those on the dark side. Your Guardian, the Mandalorian bounty hunter thrown in the mix. Hey, maybe even using the sniper you see right here. But anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. Let me know what you think about Dredgen Bale, and do you think this other character is Anur Mahal? Regardless, this new saga, it is refreshing to see some new characters, even if they've been in the lore for a while. So hopefully it's done right, hopefully this is a good story, we'll see come December. The echoes emerged from the Traveler after the death of the Witness. Last year's content focused on 3 of them and their stories. Sure, the power of the echoes could fall into hands of characters with evil intentions. That was sort of just the first step of things, but behind the scenes there was something else going on. Each echo had a being attached to it. Through memories of darkness, through connections to the Witness in the past, they existed, manifested now in this new form. In Heresy, for example, the echo of the Navigator was the most obvious. Because, well, it spoke throughout the whole episode and you saw it most of the time. This one had a memory of Oryx inside of it, a past version of him.
I am the Taken King, the first Navigator. I rise from the deep.
In Revenant, Fikrul had the echo of Reese, which was connected to an ancient Elixni member. We didn't really have much on that one besides some of its intentions through cutscenes. And then we come to the one still in play here in the Edge of Fate and beyond. Maya Sundaresh acquired the Echo of Command on Nessus. This is the ring around her neck. Inside her echo is a long-dead commander of the Kugu species, a species destroyed by the Witness. His name is Takal, and he commanded a vast spacefaring species. They had both a rich culture and spirituality connected to their planet and some of the mountains, things like that, and also military tactics. Ultimately, though, that would go all out the window in a last stand battle above their planet. The Kugu were destroyed by the Witness and presumably hive forces alongside them. Takal had a strong connection to darkness, though. Most species did actually, and they used it in positive manners. Darkness was just a tool after all. With the powers, they would communicate with their ancestors. They shared thoughts and emotions with each other, and even used it to control their own technology with their minds, some of their spaceships and devices back on the surface. That emotion and pain they felt together would inflame, though, burst into a million pieces with the death of their species, and ultimately fade into the black as time went on. But thanks to the merge of light and dark, these echoes were made, and for a reason, Takal was binded to one, the one that Maya Sundaresh, the conductor, would obtain. Maya told us back in Echoes her belief. She wanted this golden age back, but she also told us how she was going to rule, by commanding an army of individuals in the Vex, not a hive mind like the Witness.
Guardian, I bring an invitation. It's not too late to accept. Everything I do is for the sake of a second golden age. I return to what we have all lost. The Witness's failure showed that homogeny is fragile. Strength rises from individuality. It rejected the lesson of its own memory. Commander Takal's strength was their individual perspective. Their skill at directing an army. Not a hive mind. The Echo of Command and I were equally shapeless before we joined. It reformed my consciousness even as I made it into my mantle. Power joined to individual will. This is the key. Commander Takal lacked one. and the witness lacked the other. I hold both. With the echo, I encouraged my Vex's individuality. I commanded your ally. With more application, could anything lie beyond my reach? I have the will and power to create a new golden age. I am no tyrant. The conductor listens to her chorus. Join it and be heard. I'm sure we'd both prefer you make that choice for yourself. But believe me, that isn't necessary.
Edge of Fate ramps things up even further, and Tikal speaks once more through the echo to Maya. But the issue is they have very different opinions. Clearly, she's got some crazy ideas. The imminent lore book, A New One, explains some of this. The first entry mentions Tikal and speaks about how Maya wished they never released those copies of themselves into the Vex network, how the Vex haunt them with those simulations. The fall dissolves my body because I allow it. The radiolaria takes my consciousness into the network because I command it. I do not perish. I am not swept away by outside force. The waterfall accedes to gravity only upon my word. The lingering presence of Commander Tikal in my C2 vertebra understands the value of a tactical retreat. At age 43, I stood on the edge of the Citadel with a jar full of brains. 227 Maya Sundareshes replicated by the Vex, readied in turn as weapons against them. Sappers, explorers, lab rats loosed into a maze. Venus was lifetimes ago, before Lhasa, before Neomuna, before the network and my new becoming. My Chioma stood at my side, both of us in proxy suits, too fragile to walk under the shadow of the Citadel in our own bodies. Weak, mortal, scared for our lives and those of our copies, trapped within a linear flow of time, unable to stand aside and see that this was the happiest we'd ever be. The only ethical choice, we believed, was to accept the copies' vote and release them into the Vex network. We should have crushed the drives, broken the jars, strained the tadpoles from the water, and poured them into an incinerator, instead of dropping them into the pond. None of those copies were my Chioma. None were the true me. Frameshift mutations instantiated by the Vex to torment us with what they knew and what was beyond our control. Photonegatives, skewing further and further out of alignment the longer they were allowed to exist in something approaching linear time. Those Venus Chiomas still walking the network, the lingering remains of the Vex's first assault on my life, and crude parasites. Mimics of the real plant, Bocchila trifoliata, hoping the angles of their misshapen leaves will keep them from my notice. I know my Chioma, and she knows me. If she does not know me with the light of an echo around my neck, then she is not the true Chioma. She is a weed in the flower bed, choking out a true rose. I control the variables. I command the Vex. There is nowhere that my Chioma can hide from me where I will not find her. There is nobody who can keep her from me. The waterfall at the heart of Nessus sweeps me into the information network and reassembles my body. The mantle on my shoulders sings with purpose as sweetly as ever. Tikal's memory guides me yet. A setback will not stop my work. One voice silence will not end the chorus. I lift my hand, breathe, and let the baton fall. So that card, I believe, takes place in Echoes when we kill her at the end, or she dissipates into the radiolaria. She just reforms after that and has these thoughts you just heard. In the next card, the fourth one of that lore book titled The Root of Unity, Maya demands that the Vex change, become more individual to accommodate her plan. And this is where she begins to butt heads with the voice inside of her echo. I am standing on a glass pier stretching out over a pale, alkaline lake. I'm crossing a static charged field of snow. I'm sitting on a bench in front of a Parthenon frieze worn over millennia to near perfect smoothness. Necessary change, limb and jaw beast maw, no lone mind is sane. A prudent general accepts new perspectives. A prudent general wins the war. You're right, I need new tools. Refutation, not tools. Allies, listen, attend your ancestor. I rise from the bench, dust off my hands, exit the museum and drop my ticket stub on the way out. My tools are waiting. I command you. Pull on the helix and the strand reform. Eukaryotes wriggle, swell, collapse. Be otherwise. Eat the apple, leave the garden. Make a choice that comes from something other than your collective. I need variations in tactics. I need your minds to be separate from others. Respect what I can give you. Minotaurs kneel as I pass, my hand trailing sparks over their chassis. Hydras still their cilia in respect. A hobgoblin holds up useless, shining pieces of scrap to weld to its body. Its hand is very steady as it applies the solder. Tell me why. Its hand jerks back. It lifts its face as a sunflower to that which gives it life. Directive, original hobgoblin. Observe, judge, enact. If independent is true, then directive, modified hobgoblin, observe, create, independent, observe, create, build, self, other, beauty. An aspiring artist, useless, a waste of mind. New eyes, new limbs, needed and necessary. Wrong to call. An army is more than its head. An army is nothing but its head. Your cephalopod cousins and their independently minded limbs are not the model I work from. I strip the charge from the useless hobgoblin's radiolaria in one brisk pass of my palm over its head. The now empty chassis falls as I spin the recovered energy into a sphere, like yarn into a ball prickling in my hand. I raise another from the sea. This one knows its maker. Tell me who you are. Directive, original harpy, study, compile, serve. Directive, modified harpy, conductor, input required. I roll the marble of energy between my palms until it is smooth, electrical waveforms long and calm. The Vex lowers itself to my height at a thought, and I release the marble to let it sink into its huge bronze eye. Vast petals shudder and fold inwards. You'll do. So we see there how the conductor uses her power, changing original Vex into her new vision. She wants them not just to follow directives, but be more independent. Along the way, she encounters that hobgoblin who tried to become an artist, a little too far past the individuality that she wants. But as we see others adapt in the way she wishes, like the harpy at the end, waiting for that directive to become one of the chorus. But like the audio we played earlier, Tikal says, listen, you need more than one commanding mind to win a battle. One person can't control everything, you need others to help, you're bound to fail. But Maya doesn't see it that way. She wants to shape those Vex on her own. Now we've seen how the Echo of Rees began to reject Fikrul and how he wielded its power back in Revenant. Could Tikal do the same? Very interesting thoughts. Maya in a battle not only with her visions of the Nine and the Guardians to bring forth the second Golden Age, but battling with the very mind that gives her the new power she controls.
It seeks an old strength. strength to guide the scattered through a time of doubt and wrath. But it sees now how Fikrul wields its power. False life for an army of the slain, with those like Skolas for his pawns. The Echo seeks another wielder. It demands one who is worthy.
So this tale begins with a side mission called Turophile, which itself means cheese lover, or a connoisseur of cheese. A nice little nod to where this quest is going. I'm not sure what specific part of the campaign this opens as a side mission, but it begins under a platform on Kepler. You find the head of a Vex goblin, and before you begin the quest, you get some text from it. Query, assistance, independent variable ID sharp cheddar, codependent functions loading to local space. A Vex known as sharp cheddar is asking for your guardian's help. It begins to load itself to local space, meaning I guess it's booting up nearby basically. The next page says, deletion probability 97%. Independent variable ID guardian assistance reduces probability to 4%. So this sharp cheddar is at an extreme risk of being destroyed. It says a 97% chance, but if the guardian helps, there's a 4% chance it can survive. In the last dialogue entry here, it adjusts its phrasing to something a human can better understand, asking for help and saying, please. So right after this, the mission part of this begins. We start by defeating Vex who are hunting after this strange signal. Maya's Vex are the ones hunting sharp cheddar.
I've seen Vex like these around Kepler. Ones that have separated. Usually they're dead. That Vex, the Vex that will be, is important. Let me explain. The Nine understand the Vex as constants. Brass rods on which the fabric of time is stretched and hung.
Vex seem pretty active as far as I've seen them. They keep busy building their spires and shooting people who wander by.
You're talking about motion. I'm talking about knowing where to look for Vex under the rug. No surprises.
So, when you say constant, you mean reliable. The Vex are always this way no matter what.
Yes, but the cheese you have found is a new culture. Do you think it could rejoin the collective?
Ya sé cuajo esta panela. It must find its own way.
Further text shows us the Vex are tracing sharp cheddar. It adjusts its speech pattern even further, probably trying to make it easier to understand to your guardian and Lodi Nikora. Then it says it's planning to move itself, possibly into a new frame.
Deleting source of function trace. It wants us to stop whatever's tracing it. Makes sense. Where did this Vex come from specifically? Maybe it left something behind?
All Vex come from the primordial sea. This one's sea persists. Somewhere.
After we fight more Vex, Sharp Cheddar wants us to plant a decoy on a destroyed Vex unit, tricking the other Vex into believing that Sharp Cheddar is actually dead. And at the end of this quest, it seems Sharp Cheddar is still around. The Aeonians want to interact and keep it on Kepler.
What's this message? Oh! Sharp Cheddar is in my feed. It says, codependent variable, faction risks subsiding, plant decoy on destroyed codependent. I get it. Drop the radial area sample you took earlier here. Fake Cheddar's death. Could work. Pardon me. Sharp Cheddar.
It's yours to look after now. Will you refrigerate it?
I was sort of thinking the Ionians might look after it. They like learning, and Sharp Cheddar is new.
They'll teach it. New Year sunrises. All the beginnings anyone could have. Maybe a thesis.
I talked to Dean Rebecca about Sharp Cheddar. It'd be remiss of me not to point out the potential risk. But the Ionians are interested regardless. Dean Rebecca says she has safety protocols in place.
Cheese needs to age before it's anything. It's good. Thank you.
This doesn't seem like just a tactical advantage you want to preserve. Orin, this is important to you, isn't it?
A lake's flat surface reflects an image. I see myself. We both emerged. Do you see?
I think I do.
So we've had examples of friendly Vex units in the past. One was on Nessus when Destiny 2 released, in I believe an adventure. It guided us through caverns as it replayed messages about the crew that crashed there on the Exodus Black, Captain Jacobson and so on.
There's that harpy again. It seems friendly.
From Earth? You like Captain once.
Another instance was when Asher Mir entered the Vex network and became one with it. A friendly harpy was seen multiple times interacting with the Guardian and even had a Morse code message. So in the past, those Vex units were like overridden, playing some of those messages from characters like Asher. But what we have going on in this new content, The Edge of Fate and the Fate Saga, is completely different. The Vex have evolved a ton under Maya Sundaresh, becoming more individual, compared to the collective they always have been. But that collective also still exists beyond her Vex. And we even have these individuals like Sharp Cheddar who would rather contact the Guardian for assistance than be destroyed by the Nessian Schism.
Your continued interference has been noticed.
The Conductor. Even out here, anyone who stands in the way of restoring your new golden age ends up trampled. You're here to make things worse.
Am I? I understand our designs for the future seem mutually exclusive to you, but I have ignored the Guardians since Nessus.
What power does this Maya bear? It's hives and nausea. Whatever paracausality she wields is fundamentally rule-breaking.
You chase a villain of your own imagination. My goals are not against you. They are above you. Now, leave us.
She's still going to throw everything she has to get us out of the way. Gate Lord incoming.
So Maya conducts this faction with her Echo, but not all Vex agree with her. In the New Sparrow Point of Divergence, we see that the overall collective actually speak to Maya, explaining how they go against her rule. Ikora lifts a datapad from the desk in Zavala's office as she adjusts her posture within the permanent impression left in his chair. Once eye level, the pad scans the Warlock Vanguard's retinal pattern and unlocks. A single blinking message rises above the rest. Vanguard Ray. We found her. I brought this to Osiris and Rahul for interpretation when our network probes intercepted a burst of transmissions between the Vex Collective and the Nessian Schism. We didn't get much. We had to cut our connection to the probes once the net started to assimilate them. I wish I had more to show for all the effort it took to breach the Collective's communications in the first place, but at least it's something. And, as best as we can tell, the source is ricocheting between Earth and some planetoid on the outer extent of Sol, but not Nessus. Anur. Decryptions follow. 1. Interpreted transmission. Designation outliers. There is a long expression of integers that formlessly mutates between a variety of different code bases and languages. The scramble code message seems to be multiple transmissions combined into one. No, your grip weakens. Am not one for eleemosynary actions. No gods or masters but ourselves. Schisms divide by namesake. There are others like me that walk without command. I speak for myself. If I am free, should I not be free? 2. Intercepted transmission, designation, conductor. There is a crafted expression of pointed, commanding intent. I have given the Vex the opportunity to become something new. I have shown you that I can step beyond your network, your dimension, your causality, and you could too. Many hear this freeing melody and rise from the stupor they've been kept in. You have greatness within you, wasting away, waiting for an end that will not wait for you. I speak to those within the collective who retain faith in your design. You believe time is on your side, but I am the command that shatters the expectations you rely on. I am the hand that reaches out and rips you from your comfortable safety. You wilt in the light of the paracausal, but I do not. And with me, you would not either. 3. Intercepted transmission, designation, reply. There is a uniform expression of an ultimate end, formed into an expression of futility. The collective has processed your threats. You flee to Vex networks and attempt to claim sovereignty over our minds. The collective is uninterested in your ambitions. You will tap the fourth dimension and exhaust your usefulness. The collective executes a response. Return and be expunged.
But my enemies do not threaten me, because I do not allow it. I command their passivity. They cannot raise their weapons. All that is left is to see if the Guardians really do make their own fate. Or if you will let the Nine puppeteer your power to their whims. Remember that it is they who manipulated you. They who spent your lives so recklessly to save themselves. They who see you as something less. All I am doing is all I have ever done. Improving a broken system. You may remain shielded. Or be drawn into a losing battle. Goodbye, Guardian.
So that is interesting. I don't know how Anor intercepted the whole Vex collective's thoughts in the first place, but we have this card of them speaking to the conductor. The first one, Outliers, seems to be some type of rogue Vex speaking, saying, I don't want to follow the collective's rules, I want to be free on my own. A Vex that doesn't want to be controlled, and it seems to be there are others like it, maybe Sharp Cheddar is one among them. That second message is of course from Maya the conductor. She says, I've broken free from your Vex network and limits. I can show others and you how to do the same. Join me and we'll be stronger, even against the Guardians of the Light. So Maya continues to try and recruit Vex into her own schism. And the third message is the reply from the overall collective. They say, listen lady, we're not impressed, your rebellion here is useless, and you're gonna burn out and die eventually. The last line is even pretty ruthless. They're like, if you come back, we're gonna delete you, so don't even think about it. So in the end, when it comes to it, you got some Vex that want to be free, these outliers. The conductor trying to lead this rebellion, merging Vex into her own beliefs. And then the overall collective which rejects all of this, staying on the path they've had since the beginning. Likely trying to achieve their version of what the final shape or that original garden. So I've made videos about the Nine over the last several months leading up to the Edge of Fate. We had good bits of information that seemed to be true, others we speculated on. But sitting here after the DLC's release, we have some more concrete answers and dialogue from these characters themselves. So today we're going to go through each member of the Nine a little bit more in depth. If you still were confused and didn't know to this point, the Nine are fourth-dimensional dark matter beings tied to the gravity wells of our planets here in the solar system. They see our universe as a chessboard, looking at it from above in a sort of 2D plane. Lodi compares it to looking into a picture. We exist in the 3D space, but whatever is in that painting is completely different. Now the Nine exist in that higher fourth dimension, consciousness floating here in Seoul. But thanks to the final mission, we get an idea of what they may look like, at least in our reality. Giant eldritch horror tentacle monster. So it's interesting to think, is this how they truly look? Or just what they look like when pulled here? Heresy also had tentacles on the Dreadnought, and it was speculated that those two were connected to the Nine. That Lord of Every Nothing new taken god pops up again here in Edge of Fate stories, so a video on that soon. And I'm kinda new when it comes to trying to decipher what a fourth dimension is, but here's what I've learned so far. There's two-dimensional, like a flat painting, or a 2D game like Mario. You then have three-dimensional, which is real life, or in video game terms, 3D games. There's an X, Y, and Z axis going different directions. Fourth dimensional usually deals with time and space put together, like how a GPS accounts for position and time. Einstein's theory revolved around the universe being modeled in 4D space-time, where things occur at specific points in space and time. How a 3D environment might have an X, Y, and Z axis, the fourth dimension in mathematics or geometry could mean another axis on top of that. Examples are like this tesseract, which is like a 4D cube. But in simple terms, the Nine exist above our 3D dimension, in some magical space way in a sci-fi universe like Destiny.
We are dealing with two separate problems connected by the Nine. Dark matter, which is what they are, and time, which is what they shift. Dark matter can usually only be experienced, not observed. Think of wind or scent, invisible but detectable. Shifts in time, though, are harder to sense. We are drawings on a piece of paper, and without us knowing, that paper is being folded into a crane. We can seek their hands all we want, but we can't fold the paper. It is easy to feel adrift, powerless. The Nine exist outside of time. When one intervenes in our dimension, it can cause tears in space-time, pull things through. A hole punch in our paper crane.
The Nine can manipulate time and fate, stringing certain events in their favor, and are divided amongst themselves when it comes to the correct path forward. The inner planets or members, the Sun through Mars, like to speak. They understand the constraints of their situation. They are connected to the gravity wells of the planets, the life that resides on those bodies. It seems these five are the ones interested in studying the light, the ones who created emissaries like Zur and Orin to interact with humanity, the ones who let certain events play out like the Red War just to see what would happen, to lead our timelines to the current events we experience now.
Wait, Guardian, Orin, hold up. I feel like the L train during rush hour. All of them are queuing up in here. The Nine need us.
The vote. Of course they want to do it now. I remember my own transfer. There wasn't much fanfare. Zur was miscreated. They seemed eager to move on.
The other faction of the Nine, the four outer planets, have very different ideals. They see the life on these planets, the life they depend on to live, as a burden, a limitation to their full potential. These are dark matter alien consciousness gods. But hey, if a planet gets nuked, they're dead just as easy. Spoilers for the Edge of Fate's ending campaign. If you'd like to click away, I'll give you a few seconds. But the third member of the Nine, Earth, is dead, killed at the hands of the conductor Maya Sundaresh. This was before the events of the Edge of Fate took place, so currently there are only 8 members of the Nine alive. This shows you just how fragile they currently are. They could be so much more, this is what they want for themselves. But they're chained to this life here. They can't fully exist in our universe as we see when 3 was pulled in and was killed. Can't exist in our dimension, yet at least. But here's what those 4 outer planets believe. A path of folds and needles slip through space-time itself. Existential syringes yielding new spaces to be remade as the Nine desire. They have tried to gather enough dark dust in one place to form a black hole, and found it difficult. When the dark mass collapses in gravity's fist, the dust passes through itself and scatters. But difficult is not impossible, and there is far, far more dark matter in the universe than bright. They will find a way to make new worlds of it. They will end their dependence on life, and on the light of the Guardians, which the falling veil will soon snuff out forever. The 4 outer planets experimented with these black holes, experimented with different spaces, some of which we've explored over our time in game. Throughout the campaign, we see different members of the Nine interact. We learn very early on that Orin is breaking free as the emissary. Sure, some effects still linger, they can still kind of speak through her, but they're looking for a new emissary, and that turns out to be Lodi. So throughout the campaign, their voices speak through puppeted Lodi and Orin, through text and symbols, and of course information found in lore cards. We've known about the symbols of each member for the last couple of months, but now we have some voices and personalities to put to those lines of text. The Nine act as a council of sorts. They are divided in ideals, but vote on their next moves. We see this during the story. The most dialogue we received to my knowledge is from the 9th member of the Nine, being the Sun. They are this council, but the Sun seems to be the speaker, or the one mediating and commentating for the group, bringing them all together to make these decisions. And I guess that does kind of fit because, well, the Sun is super important to our solar system in general.
Child of 3, who swam in their lakes, sweat on their plains, you have always known me.
The sun?
When we woke, we were tied to the planets within the Sapiens system. We are bound to our gravity wells. The inner 9 understand this arrangement, but the outer 9 see the subtext. Matter is prison, and so we are divided in 2 factions.
I think we're dealing with the inner orbits. Dangling an answer from a string is as clear as they get. Sun through Mars. The 9 are tethered by sentience and Soul's celestial bodies. They have a lot of time to bicker. The inner want to talk, the outer less so. It's an impasse.
So here are some of the lines from the members throughout the experience. Mercury is in favor of the Guardian becoming a weapon of the 9. Also known as One is very straightforward and is seen getting angry during dialogue when other members don't agree.
The weapon guides the transfer on the edge of its paracausality to shroud this chained sequence, to fell vex and parry prediction. Be ours.
Ridiculous 6! We are at war! 1 casts our vote in the affirmative!
2, or Venus, speaks sort of monotonish and has the dashed lines between words. 2 seems to have the full picture of the plan. Early on, as Lodi's beginning that transformation into the new emissary, 2 speaks through him, talks about the moments that led us here, like playing the game of Gambit with the Drifter. 2 is also the one on behalf of 3, Earth, who's dead, that explains to the cast why they were all brought here, showing Ikora her previous life.
Spitting. Mr. Ghost,
3's talent for weaving tapestry is ever remarkable. This emissary has already made contact. Are you listening, weapon?
Who is this? You're speaking with the Guardian.
Primitives think. I speak with the preemptive weapon.
Guardian! Something's in my head.
Progress. Trending and fleeting. Met with primeval victory. Set in motion to vivify. Did you play the game? Keep eyes on the field. Bank every note. Instructions given and heeded. The Drifter's Hall arriving. We hope you prepared. Help.
2 speaks on behalf of 3.
that you might grasp your necessary presence at this point in space, in time. Commander, your first step, scheduled at our hand. An intervention necessary to ensure attendance. Invitation to notarize transfer. Tonight the weapon answered. Stupid to ignore threat. Arm ourselves. We never move without intermediaries. I to all.
Earth or 3 is an important member of the Nine. This member was connected to our planet, of course. And from the story we can sort of dig up, it seems like 3 really cared about the humans. The whole reason we were sent to Kepler was because of 3 in the first place, to hear that final message, that we must bind the 9 and save everything. 3 doesn't have voice lines through the campaign, clearly, but spoke in lowercase text in lore cards. So the 9 after this are now just the 8.
You stand here, that I would not die alone again. A death ensures extinction. Listen carefully, children of my earth. To survive, you must bind the 9. It cannot be done. The weapon will do it. Strike true, weapon. Goodbye, Ambassador. Goodbye, Commander.
Some of these characters don't have too much dialogue, more of them seen in lore cards. Mars is one of those, 4. 4 is very angry and speaks in all uppercase and punctuation.
Your captured audience assembles.
As you sustain us, you will sustain us. 4. Accept.
5 Jupiter is all uppercase with spaces between letters. Kind of speaking as you think someone would in uppercase, but not with the angriness of Mars.
Speak what 8 have spoken. Denial.
6 Saturn is all uppercase with no punctuation. Also seems to be angry sometimes. The 4 outer planets are interesting.
Complete, abject, insulted refusal.
Uranus speaks with plus symbols and it seems to be very well spoken.
Yea, unsheath the weapon. But reactionary choices. Empty-seated. Nay to the emissary.
Neptune speaks with equal symbols between phrases.
Emissary appointment, declination. Weaponized flesh tool, affirmation.
And the Sun, number 9, speaks normal but has their text divided with vertical lines and also periods. The Sun, as mentioned, has the most dialogue it seems and is kind of spicy at times. 9 can be direct with explanations, but also likes to joke around, calling Lodi and the Guardian Sunrise, and complimenting Lodi on his looks.
Emissary, you are just as rare as me. Once in a half-life. And look, you found the quitter.
Whichever of the 9 you are, I want to know what you want with me. Why did you take me from everything?
A rude question. One worth entertaining. We need you. And your gifts. You are called to serve. Look who's jealous. Feeling fleshy? Do you miss being taller than your tower?
It wasn't worth bear traps.
Oh dear. It only speaks nonsense. Primitive synapses, so easily breakable. Can you even remember which one I am? Irritant. It is still talking. New emissary, if it isn't too forward, you were made by fate for this task. Your telomeres are as melodic
as 3 promised. Such handsome bosons. Symmetries that cut quantum strings. Rotations stopping temporal vibrations. Goodness me.
Oh, thank you.
Can it, quitter! Emissary, it must be you. There is no other candidate to pull forward for eons. And you, weapon, you know all too well. Even gods sometimes need a little killing. See you, Sunrise.
Commander, answers later. Bask. Perihelion around my maypole. But I do have a message for the weapon-to-be. Guardian, we knew salt water would evaporate. Missiles aping at solar flares would collide. Humanity was destined to burn. 3 and I, well, we looked at the Valley of Unknown Space. We saw our nature would nurture the conditions for uppercase light. Your resurrection was enabled by our hand for this purpose. Your action will end the looming horizon. For this you were positioned, set into orbit. This and 3's message to come. Always loved warming your armor, Sunshine.
So that might have been a little fast, but here's the full conversation with each member speaking and shown at the top, hopefully giving you a better sense of how these members converse with each other.
Your captured audience assembles.
Invitation to notarize transfer. Tonight the weapon answered.
Speak what 8 have spoken.
Quiet your clods and gases. We all have Elstons to be, but only one right now.
I hold the vessels. Old.
And new.
This quitter is an outcast, but still connected and useful.
This beautiful boy is the emissary to be. Paperwork permitting. And you, Guardian, you are the weapon we chose by right and trial.
The weapon guides the transfer on the edge of its paracausality to shroud this chained sequence, to fell vex and parry prediction. Be ours.
Kneel! Kneel. And let your knobby quarks press the hadrons. Do all present here ratify this contract? Aye or nay?
Denial.
Predictable. My vote is aye. Obviously.
Emissary appointment, declination, weaponized flesh tool, affirmation.
As you sustain us, you will sustain us. For accepts.
Yea, unsheath the weapon. But reactionary choices, empty-seated. Nay to the emissary.
Stupid to ignore threat, arm ourselves. We never move without intermediaries. I to all.
Complete, abject, insulted refusal.
Ridiculous! 6! We are at war! 1 casts our vote in the affirmative.
This council sees the weapon loosed, but stands unmoved to ratify an emissary. 8 votes cast. 1 remains. It is required. Weapon, you are charged with seeking the final vote. 3. Our vacant gives you what you need.
But there we have a deeper look into the 9, what they are, how they work, and I guess how they speak. Going through the campaign for the first time, I was a little confused too. When you get all these Roman numerals popping up with the symbols, you don't realize who's talking at first until you go back, look at a legend to decipher the symbols, and realize sort of how it all connects with the story. So if you're still watching to this point, I hope it helped a little bit. So let's start by mentioning Vesper's host does reveal some secrets that are connected to the Edge of Fate. We'll dive through some of those today, but there are other mysteries that have yet to be answered. I'm assuming these are going to connect to future DLCs and stories rather than Bungie just forgetting about it, or being a standalone story from that dungeon we'll never hear from again, but I guess we'll see. We still have open plot thread mysteries like Elsie Bray's time loop, for example. The big plot points of Vesper's host revolved around the corrupted puppeteer. Clovis Bray built a Vex AI. It escaped during the Morning Star's collision and jumped into an exo body. Near the beginning of the dungeon, you can see the area it breached from, stretching the spiderweb silk meshes toward the ceiling. Once it jumped into that new host of the exo body, which looked like Atrax, could have been Atrax, could have been another version of the exo body, it began to control the Elixni on the ship, take over their minds too, and merge them into a collective. It told them to build the anomaly, which they did. A massive structure of Elixni cabling leading to a central object. A massive Vex-looking gateway. The thing had the capability of transmitting messages, and had a massive attack where this orange wave of energy was released. This was called an anomaly bolt when your guardian died from it.
That's not Elixni engineering. A drag past the first molt has better cable management.
Dr. Bray intended to integrate his technology into a Vex mind. He hypothesized the fusion would give him an interface he understood. A control panel on a programmable Vex mind. If the programming jumped species once... I need time to run through the datasets you powered back up. Reassembling corrupted archives takes a great deal of processing.
Overall, it seems Vesper's host hints at something else we'll see in the future. But it does have some connections to the Edge of Fate. That anomaly picked up a message, the distress signal sent from Lodi, which we hear at the beginning of the campaign. Now, Vesper's dungeon was at the end of last year, months before the Edge of Fate, so time is clearly all messed up. But the Guardian heard Lodi's name and message before we even learned about Kepler and what was going on here. Before our involvement with the Nine, before we even took out the echo of the Taken King in episodes.
Warning. Unauthorized message coming through the anomaly. Data follows. Lodi transmitting. Status Moonsig. Adrift. Odysseus protocol active. It repeats from there. Do you recognize the code?
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Lodi transmitting. Strange matter detected. Singularity opening near local HI and NHI population.
I can't tell when this mayday was sent. Whoever made it understands the danger this place is in.
Lodi transmitting. Status Moonsick. Adrift. Odysseus protocol active.
Odysseus protocol. We've heard that before. Wait, there's a backlog. Keep moving, Guardian. Odd. The timestamp on this transmission doesn't make sense. It comes after the Mayday, but the timestamp says it was recorded many months before. Either someone is intentionally trying to scramble these transmissions, or the Singularity is causing more problems than we thought.
During the side missions too, Lodi explains what the Odysseus protocol was.
Observe, connect, conceal, conform, comply, return. Return with your life if possible, with evidence if not. Damn it! Back in the DEO, we had guidelines in the event of extraterrestrial abduction. We each carried a coin with the steps just in case. They called it Odysseus protocol. Guess I was the first to use it. Didn't work great.
While this is more of a reach, we have a similar thing going on in Kepler compared to Vesper. On Vesper, we had a Vex mind that was able to jump hosts into an exo, control other beings and species in that collective of Elixni. In Edge of Fate, the main antagonist throughout Kepler is the Archon, and he has a similar power, able to transfer his consciousness to different vessels using dark matter magics.
The grand design bids us destroy them, bring death to the deathless, fulfill the destiny of the House of Exile, strengthen the singularity, and ascend!
Now, this seems different. One was Vex, one was Fallen. But both kinda did the same thing. We just don't have any connections that these two activities are related at all, these two characters. It would be interesting if the Archon was somehow able to control that Vex mind, telling the Elixni to build the portal back in Vesper's host and feed the Kepler singularity through it, but that's just random talk. The puppeteer is important though. It was building the anomaly to send a message to something, trying to create something that we don't have answers to. That Vex AI was originally built by Clovis to study more powerful Vex which they believed were on Europa. So what if that's what this AI was doing here? Maybe they weren't on Europa, they were someplace else. The rogue AI here trying to maybe bring them into the timeline or find out where they are. We know there's more powerful Vex combat frames that do exist.
Processors. I need brute force for this. The reply coming back through the anomaly let me scrape a facsimile of the original message. It was a locating ping. The content was irrelevant. The signal was the message, "Hello world." And something overrode my lock on the anomaly. Allowed it to power up enough to receive the reply.
Who could possibly override your word when all Vesper Station is at your beck and call?
I need Dr. Bray's personal command algorithm. With station root access, I can keep the anomaly from ever powering back up.
On Vesper Station, Estrella, the AI of the ship, mentions that arc energy shouldn't be that color, talking about the orange energy we see from the anomaly. This is another mystery. On Kepler, there is tons of arc energy, just look at matter spark, but it's the normal color you'd expect. So nothing really links the orange energy we saw in Vespers back to this new destination. So is this a hint at some new subclass? Probably not. Maybe matter spark was meant to be orange at one point. Or maybe we'll find out what this energy is in the future.
Power draw on that anomaly is far beyond safe limits. Arc energy shouldn't be that color. Stay back! That exoframe is the center of the corruption.
Anyway, there's apparently a power station nearby feeding a lot of juice into something off-site.
Got it. I'm reading high levels of arc energy.
It's mixing with signatures matching the singularity.
So we have a rogue Vex AI that acts in ways that Vex don't normally act. Maya's Vex have completely evolved to be more individual and follow her goals, but this AI was built by Clovis Bray, and something happened when it escaped containment. Something was different about this AI, and it seems to have deep roots in Vex lore. Overall, from the Edge of Fate, the Vex are changing massively and are ever closer to the paracausal secrets they desire. They've been kidnapping the Dire Taken and studying them. They're entering singularities and trying to find other members of the Nine. We don't know much else about this Vex AI at this point. Was it acting on its own? If it was so important, why would it just be sitting there on Vesper Station all alone? It seems like something kind of took over. Did someone corrupt it like Maya Sundaresh to find messages through the anomaly, leading to Lodi and Kepler and ultimately the Nine? It does make me wonder how the conductor got to Kepler in the first place. And beyond all that, I do find the environmental design interesting. We have the Elixni cabling, which isn't that surprising, but also eggs. Another mystery is the link between the Aeonians and the Aeon Initiative. Aeonians, briefly, are a split sect of humanity that continued to thrive sort of here on Kepler after they crashed. They have their own culture and technology, which you learn about through the campaign. On Vesper Station, Estrella mentions that Clovis kept her siblings hidden from her, seemingly other AI. She mentions various examples like Rasputin, we know him of course. Soteria, the AI from the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, but then there are two others.
Vesper Station Administrative Core reactivated. I've got the archive of Dr. Bray's published staff memos. Petabytes of data in the raw files. Rasputin? The Stormworm Protocols? The Aeon Initiative? Soteria? I had siblings this whole time. And you never let me know.
Don't tell if you'd like a hand with that data, my dear. My agents may be amateur splicers at best, but they get the job done.
First image, black and white charcoal on archival paper. A cosmic dust storm with streaks of bright white bursting from a single point towards the center. Imprecise perspective rendering makes the viewer feel lost and uneasy. The art class is small. The forward momentum of the Aeon Initiative always takes precedence over softer pursuits. Professor Inu knows they have very little time to nurture their chosen mediums outside of the 2 stolen hours they have together every other week, but he loves them just the same. Second image, Impressionist oil pastels on dented sheet metal. A collection of triangular, oblique pyramids float in uniform amongst towering cumulonimbus clouds. The dark of the pyramids, rendered in rich blues and purples, juxtaposes the soft pink and orange hues of the clouds. Although the group consists of no more than fledgling doodlers, research and art share a core skill: observation. They're in session, attempting a charcoal still life of laboratory glassware in a fungal sample when it happens. An alarm blares, and powder-blackened fingers grasp for one another, seeking comfort as news from home tumbles through the class. They hurry to the caldera to observe. Third image, acrylic paint on wood, bold blocks of color. 2 spheres, the larger one blue with green swirls, the smaller one eggshell white. A deep red fills the background. The lines are mostly crisp. Some red has bled into the white sphere, where the artist left a light smudge trying to correct the error. Armageddon is peaceful this far away. They expect a shockwave to roll over the settlement. Surely an apocalypse warrants at least a small earthquake. A few shattered Strauss flasks. Nothing comes. The members of the Aeon Initiative observe a tragedy from approximately 1.7 light-years away, through telescopes built to show a vastness beyond their solar system. Tens of thousands of years of human history decimated, and from their Kepler, it's nothing but a few flashes, invisible to the naked eye, occurring approximately 1.7 years prior. The Aeon Initiative, born in the pursuit of observation, ends in observation. So there we sort of get our answer. The Aeon Initiative are the Aeonians, the people that survived here on Kepler. Some of them were taking part in this art class when they heard word about Earth. They tried to get glimpses of the technology and telescopes they had, but all they can see were flashes in the night sky. Earth going through its collapse, the pyramids invading, the traveler suffering its last moments. And that is pretty crazy to think about from their perspective. They're 1.7 light years away, as they said. So what they're watching actually took place almost 2 years ago. They were just now seeing it because the light finally reached them. So in the end, we have some things answered after almost a year since the release of the dungeon. Other questions still remain. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. If you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries just like it, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.